G'day and welcome to another episode of KiwiCarLife. And after 6 years of piston-powered KiwiCarLife reviews, we've finally got a Wankel rotary powered car on the channel. Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce to you the Mazda RX-8. And it's one of the best they ever made, a Series 2 with the 6-speed manual. And the first order of business is 9,000 RPM. It may not be the fastest car in the world, there's no denying that, but seeing that tack wind all the way to 9 grand right in the middle with a digital speedo, it's something that you certainly don't get to see every day, and is one of the coolest parts about this car. That crazy red line is achieved through just a 1.3 litre twin rotor engine. But how does it actually work? Well, if we split the twin rotor in two and just look at the single rotor, you'll see that it moves in a kind of unusual fashion. But essentially every face of the triangle in the middle is what is creating compression against the side of the rotor housing. There's two spark plugs which ignites the fuel that comes in one port and then is exhausted out another port on the other side. Generally, rotaries tend to have 4 or 6 ports. The more ports, of course, like more valves in a piston engine, the more air and fuel they can let in. The 4-port engine was found in the original 4-speed automatic RX-8 and the 5-speed manual version, and it is the lower power engine. It's got 143 kilowatt, 195 horsepower, and 198 newton meters of torque. But this one has the higher power 6-port engine. It's got another 30 kilowatt, 173 kilowatt, or about 235 horsepower, and 216 newton meters of torque. These 6-port engines were found in the highest performance RX-8 paired with a close ratio 6-speed manual gearbox, with power, of course, going to the rear wheels. A lot of people will be familiar with the fact that these rotary engines are not the most reliable. The main issue with them is the tips of the 3 corners of the Dorito inside the engine tend to wear out after a wee while. But the good news is, if you get a Series 2 like this one, which came from 2008 to 2012, they improved the apex seals and also added another oil injector into the engine. And as a result, in theory, these Series 2s tend to be a little bit more reliable compared with the original one. They also made improvements to the styling. It came with new wheels, new bumpers, new headlight designs, and a new rear fascia as well, with slightly redesigned taillights. Buying a Series 2 is the way to go. And now, the interior. This is the part of the car that really does just look like any other Mazda, to be honest. The steering wheel is identical to an NC MX-5. The gauges look very similar as well, although it's pretty cool to see in this one that it goes to 9,000 RPM. The center stack here is covered in shiny black plastic, which naturally will show all of the dust and fingerprints. The screen at the top is pretty basic, doesn't show a heap of information. It's not especially well equipped either, at least in this particular example. It doesn't have auto lights, it doesn't have auto wipers, it doesn't have Bluetooth or anything, it doesn't even have dual zone climate control. Really the only features to speak of is cruise control and electric memory seats down here. It's a very compact interior. Yes, it does have 2 seats in the back that you can access through the suicide doors, which does make accessing them a lot easier than, say, my E46 M3. The seats themselves are pretty comfortable, but they're quite flat and narrow, which if you took it on a longer journey, you perhaps might find it a little bit uncomfortable, not to mention the fact my hair is brushing against the side of the roof here. But now, let's get back to 9,000 RPM. Well, here we are. One of the best proving grounds for a fun, fast, high-revving, rear-wheel drive car, Paikakariki Hill Road. Any normal person would have no idea that it's a rotary engine. The power delivery is just like any other petrol engine car that I've ever driven, but it's very smooth in the way that it makes its power. And then the rest of the car, steering feel, brilliant. Handles delightfully well on this road, just feels flat, nimble, The suspension controls the weight of the car very, very nicely. It's funny that little shift beat you have to remind you to change up when you get into 9,000 RPM. And of course, with it being rear wheel drive, it's just so balanced up a road like this. The front wheels are left to do the steering, and the back end can just follow from behind. The gear ratios are perfect. They make use of the rotary engine really nicely on a road like this, and you can just always keep the revs up where the power is. The brakes feel good, pedal box is placed perfectly, heel toe is easy because the engine just responds immediately to your inputs. It grips phenomenally well. It's definitely not a drift car, like it doesn't sort of hang the back end out at all. Even if you try and provoke it, it still doesn't really seem to manage to do it. The fact you can just go up and down gears and just enjoy it on a road like this. Brilliant sounding engine, lots of RPM. Man alive, this thing is really good, eh? I must admit, having driven an NC MX-5 and this, which are actually based on the same platform, this is a far better car. The NC for some reason just has a terrible electronic throttle, which is really annoying to use, whereas this just, you can hear, just responds immediately. Steering feels pretty similar, I must admit. I mean, it's the same steering wheel for starters, and you can tell the RX-8 is a slightly bigger car. But this thing's faster, it's more responsive, it's more sharp, there's less body roll. If you kind of learn how to live the rotary lifestyle, you know, not turning it off as soon as you start it after it's cold, making sure that you always warm it up before you drive it and top up the oil and that kind of stuff, as long as you look after it. Genuinely, I think one of these would be reliable enough. It's pretty well built, but most importantly, it is a masterfully good drive. The sound, the speed, the RPM, the brilliant steering, perfectly well set up chassis. On a road like this, whether you're going up or down, it is just a joy. Only complaints, I could do with a little bit more power, slightly less piano black in the interior, and things like heated seats and dual zone climate control and maybe Bluetooth and other bits and pieces like that would be nice to have. But otherwise, this thing is up there as one of the best cars I reckon I've ever driven. This thing is a masterpiece. So thanks for watching, and I will look forward to seeing you again next time.